Hello and welcome to our webinar, Automated Testing Implementation Challenges During Preparation for Go Live. I'm Jacob Davis and I'll be your moderator today. A couple quick housekeeping things before we get started. The chat is on, so feel free to ask questions at any time during the webinar in the chat. And we've got a couple people who are here to answer those questions as we go along. Also, we are recording this, so for all the attendees after the webinar, we will follow up with an email and send out this recording to you as well. I'm really glad everyone could join us today. Today we're going to talk about how to incorporate test automation into your overall testing strategy and share our experiences that we have in this area with you. I'm here today with Bartosz Śpiech, and he is the product manager for Executive Automat's test automation tool, as well as Antony Amason, a test manager who has over 10 years of experience. And so I'm really happy that we've got two great minds in the industry here with us today. Bartosz is one of the best in the world concerning test automation for Microsoft Dynamics. He's traveled around the world giving trainings and consultations on the topic. Antony, as I mentioned, is a test manager with over 10 years of experience helping huge multinational organizations, and just really happy that he's here to share his knowledge with us on how to incorporate test automation into your testing strategy during implementations and rollouts, as well as some important things to consider during the process. Today, the agenda, we're going to take a look at how to fit automated testing into the planning phase, as well as take a deep dive into test automation projects and how to set that up. We'll also touch on some project challenges that'll be addressed by automated testing. And then at the end, we'll finish up. We'll have my colleague Mateusz come in and talk a little bit about our certification program for test automation. And we'll try to save a couple minutes at the end for some questions, some live questions from the audience. But again, please ask during the chat, in the chat during the webinar, and we'll get to those as we go along. That's really about all there is from me. I hope everyone can hear us well. If not, let us know in the chat. And with that, I will turn it over to Antony. Test planning. Antony, tell us a little bit about it.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jacob, for that introduction. Yes, straight to the chase, automation test planning. The first question everyone asks is what needs to be tested? The things that we need to test, the first things that we need to look at is we need to make sure that the test meets certain criteria in order for them to be automated. Otherwise, it might end up costing us more than it saves. And because the major goal of automation is to save time, effort, and money, we need to make sure we get the criteria right. So what is the criteria for test automation in a D365 implementation? So the test must be repeatable. There's no sense in automating a test that can only be run once. The test must be determinant. This means that the outcome of the test has to be the same every time it's run with the same inputs. The test must be unopinionated, which means that you cannot automate matters of opinion. Yeah, you can't automate a test that requires a human being's opinion. And user feedback is important, but it just cannot be automated. So you can't automate tests that require user feedback. So to add to what cannot be automated, exploratory tests cannot be automated. Security tests can be automated, but with a level of complexity. Usability tests cannot be automated, and like I said earlier, tests that require user inputs, for example, approval workflows with different levels of authorization. A typical team that would be involved in test automation planning, you definitely need your developers. You need your business analysts because they gather the requirements and they more or less determine the tests that can be automated. You definitely need your business users. You need your functional analysts. You need your SMEs. You need your process owners. You need your key users. You need your implementation partners. That could be Hitachi, could be Executive Automats, could be anyone. And then most importantly, you need the test team itself. You need the test analyst, you need the test leads, you need the test manager, and you need the automation engineers. So in a nutshell, that's what you need to start your planning.
That's true. I can elaborate a bit on the automate the tests of the how you test the dynamics. Actually, thank you so much, Jacob, for the introduction. My name is Bot. Indeed, the testing team, as it might be very huge. We had a chance with Anthony to collaborate on one of the biggest implementation of AX 2012 in the past in Hungary, and I remember it was like 6 test managers in the test team, which was significant. I'm correct, Anthony? It was like 6 or 5?
Yes, we had 6 different test managers, and it was a global implementation over 80 countries, over about 6 continents.
Which just shows the scale and importance of how big the test the team can be, and then you've got to follow multiple people, which needs to be on board to deliver the test cases on the spot and the result as well. And the test cases which we were defining, this was not only the happy path testing, this was not only the results testing, which was very important. With the team, we actually we were trying to deliver performance tests for the organization, because as you may know, the Dynamics has some problems with actual performance when it comes to huge organizations where they've got multiple entities, multiple actual places in the world. So this leads us to the moment where we need to build a performance scenario, where we need to, before the go live, to set up one environment, which will be a reflection of your production environment, to run parallel tests to prove that we are ready to go. Secondly, that we know that we are ready to go, we can't left security behind, because security element, as Anthony said, it is very complex and hard to automate, but there are some ways how to make sure that your security is up and running. It is precise. It gives you sort of prevents you from receiving some data extortion, because users can do it definitely. We've got different contractors on the application. Sometimes it is very easy to extract the data, so it is good to have the perfect security setup. So we can definitely outline this. Workflows, on the other hand, this is a problem, but we've seen different approaches on the workflow, and we've done a few case studies on that. We were testing inside of the Dynamics implementation functionalities with workflow, and workflow turned off. And the results were very promising, that even though we are not testing with workflow, so the entire scope for approvals and the entire waiting process was deactivated, the tests were actually the same where we were testing this with workflow. So if you are running workflow and this is a critical element for your system, you can, for some period, of course, of time, deactivate the workflow and try to run it. It might create some savings. It might deliver quickly results of this, and then additionally you can plan the workflow automation. There are tools which are giving this possibility, but it needs a little bit more maintenance. I think functional regression and smoke test, Anthony, this is the best one of the best areas. You are expert in, so I'm going to leave this for you.
Okay. When it comes to test automation, there are 3 key types of testing that we that can be automated. 3 types of tests that can be automated. The first one, and I start with smoke testing first, is because this is the first on every new build. This is the first test that is run. Smoke test is also known as build verification testing. It's a type of software testing that comprises of a non-exhaustive set of tests that aim to ensure that the most important functions work. The result of this testing is used to kind of decide if a build is stable enough to proceed with further testing. So those tests are easily automated. They're the basic tests, and they test the core functionality in the system. Yeah. The next level of testing, which is normally executed after smoke testing, is functional testing. And this testing makes sure that the functionality of a product is working as per the requirement specification within the capabilities of this testing. Functional testing is done manually but most likely it can be done with automated tools. So it's a good candidate for automated testing. Then the king of all, and this is where automation really comes into play, and this is where it really shines, is regression testing. In regression testing, this is the type of software testing that confirms that a recent program or code change has not been adversely affected by the code change, and the existing code hasn't been affected. Regression tests are full. They can be full or partial, and as in they can be a full or partial selection of already executed test cases, which are re-executed to ensure existing functionalities still work as fine as they should. So making sure that there hasn't been any adverse impact on the existing code base. Regression testing is normally done to make sure that the new code changes do not have any side effects on the existing functionalities. It ensures that the old code still works once the latest code changes are completed. So regression testing, because every time you make a change in the system, you want to verify that everything still works. Regression tests can be run, and like I said, they're an ideal candidate for automation, because it just makes, with the click of a button, you can schedule your regression tests, so you don't need human intervention.
That's true. We can actually totally agree that the test automation in F&O is much more critical where Microsoft decided to move to the one version, and the updates and amount of extensions you have to write is critical. And I don't know, Anthony, but I think what I see, like multiple entities, they are struggling because the test automation in the AX world is something new. In the past, only huge projects were automated. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yes, and I think it was because of how cumbersome the Microsoft automation tool was at that time. That's and I'm referring to RSAT. RSAT was quite slow, and it was resource intensive, because you can, if you wanted to use RSAT, it was a long process. So that's why only massive projects or venture down the RSAT route.
Okay. Regarding the migration data strategy, because this is an element which is causing some questions, how to actually approach this. As you know, to run the test cases in automatic way, you need to make sure that you've got data. You've got transactional data on the application, and this is the good approach to refresh transactional data in each sprint. So let's say we develop a functionality, it goes from dev to test environment, where before it is deployed, we run tests to make sure that everything is slick. We've got everything in place. Then the regression tests starts and is done by the automation, and then the users is performing to verify the results. The one element which is mentioning here is data anonymization. There are just few tools on the market, but they are important to actually anonymize the data before it gets to the users. So when they see it, they are actually unreadable, but useful or possible to be used within the test cases. There is possibility to run scripted data creation, which is nothing else as prerequisites. When you've got your script execution, when you run it, the first element will create data for it. So like the vendor creation or customer creation or item ID creation, which will be used later on for the process. We can actually treat the IXF as logic apps as a source for the data in the testing, as well as legacy data import. Those two last are a little bit more complicated, but we can definitely outline them as possibility. When we do run the tests and we would like to actually start this, we definitely need to verify the security aspect, that we've got all accounts in place, everybody is capable of joining the environment, and then we can start doing the development phase again. When to refresh the data, I would recommend to, after the first sprint where the entire sprint where production actually receives the functionality, we should do production data dump to the test environment. So the next sprint is actually based on new functionalities and new data. When it comes to byproducts, because this is something you can get easily from the test automation. Test automation is based on the actual processes. So processes you record for business testing, for regression testing, you can easily use for process documentation. You can convert those processes to understandable documents. So the test database might be the same way a knowledge base for onboarding for rollouts. If you're going to consider a perfect coverage of the testing in your environment, you're going to have all processes that you handle recorded. You are actually able to convert them so people can use it. And we are actually stating, we can say and state that if you would like to have your environment tested perfectly, you need to have your testing cases up to date. If your tested cases are up to date, they are possible for conversion to the documentation. Your documentation is always up to date. So this is a good point because plenty of implementations are having struggles with the up-to-date documentations for onboarding. Performance testing, as mentioned, there are ways to test the environment in a simultaneous way. So when we run 300 test cases against the environment and we need to deliver results over the night, if we're going to run them sequentially, it might be impossible. As Anthony was mentioning the example of the RSAT, where you run this in sequential mode, it might be quite hard to deliver the results. If you're going to run this in parallel, you do two things. You test quickly because you've got the parallel results of the execution, but also you are stressing the system with multiple transactions in the same moment. If you're going to organize this in a good way, you are able actually to run a stress test on the environment to verify if it works well under the stress. And the last thing, security setup is very important because when you've got your processes identified and you can say that there are n processes in the organization, you can actually address those processes against a position in the organization, stating that sales manager has 10 processes, and we can try to take those 10 processes and extract entry points from those positions, from those processes, and build duty for each of those processes, build from that a role and assign to user. There are some methodologies which are helping you build the automation of the security and actually security setup from the processes you recognize for the testing overall. Yeah, Anthony, I think it is the moment where ideally we can share the screen and show a bit of the DevOps, how to start with the DevOps and how to actually use it, because plenty of people don't have idea. So let's share the knowledge in here.
Okay, with Azure Devops for those who have invested in it, or for most D365 projects, Azure Devops is the most recommended, and from my experience, the best tool that you can use to manage your test artifacts. It's also a tool that the developers use, but I'm going to focus on the testing aspect. The most important thing is for you to be able to adequately manage your tests in Azure DevOps. You need a test manager license. When you do get the test manager license, you will have this purple icon here, and this is where your test plans are stored. So if you log in to Azure DevOps, you get this landing page, then you click on the purple icon, and something should happen at some point. Yeah. So when you click on that icon, what you will get is you will get a structure, and what I'm going to walk you through is how to set up that structure, or to best set up that structure. So if you look at the taskbar up here, or the menu bar up here, you will have this is the first item here should be your project. Yep, and this should be sorry, the first item should be your organization here, and then this should be your projects. And then what you then have is you will have your suites and your test plans. Yeah. So to effectively integrate your your manual tests into your automation, because you can't automate something that you can't manually test. So you have to set up your manual tests in a certain way, form, shape, or manner. So what Microsoft recommends is you have your test suite, you have your test plan, then you have your test suite, and your test suites are supposed to be based, according to Microsoft recommendation, to be based on your modules in Azure, or sorry, not in Azure Devops, in D365. If it's F&O or whatever it is, HR or supply chain. Yeah. So the example we've got here is for F&O. So the first repository we have here is accounts receivable. So what I'm going to display to you is how you then build up your testing hierarchy in Azure Devops. So to create a new folder here, all you need to do is you can right click and then you click a new suite. To create it from scratch, where you haven't got your requirements yet, or you haven't got any queries set up, you click on static suite. So what that does is it gives you a new folder, and then you can name it. So for example, I'll use accounts payable here. That's how to set up the initial folder, but then I'm going to go to this one that has been set up already. So what you then have is, under that folder, you can then create your processes that you intend to test. So here we've got free text invoices and we've got sales orders. So we know that for any business, sales orders are crucial, and they do need to be tested. So what you then do when you get to this stage is you can click on it, and you can. So if you go over to the other side, and this is where you begin to define your test cases. So the next thing you will do is you click on here, and then you will click on, and so it depends on if your sales order if you have different types of sales orders, you can then create another folder to further break down your sales orders to like sub processes. But otherwise, you can then go here, and under sales order, you can create a test case. So if you click on new test case here, sorry, it's a bit slow, but yes. So this is the level at which you develop your test case. So if I'm just going to say create a sales order, then here you have the option to add your steps and your expected results. So just for the sake of this webinar, I'm just going to save this and close this, not to spend too much time on this. And what you then have is, under your sales order folder, you have your first test case called create a sales order. And what then happens is, in this test case, you can go into it and then populate the test steps, and then from here you manually run the test case. Step by step, the steps you put in, you manually run the test case. When you run the test case and you're certain that yes, it works according to how you want it to work, the expected result is correct, then you can then mark this test case as a candidate for automation. And to do that, you would go into your D365. Yes, so you mark it as a candidate for automation, and then this test case is what you pass over to the executive automats team to record the test case as an automated test case. With executive automats, you can record the process that you've manually run directly from D365. It not only works in D365, it works in any web-based or any ERP as well. So when you're manually executing the test case, you can record it there and then. And once you record it in the Executive Automats tool, it then becomes an automated test case. No need for coding, no need for any extra saving it to an extra separate repository like RSAT. You don't need to go into LCS. You can actually record the test case directly from D365.
Anthony, can you tell us a few words also on the Apqc and the features or requirements? What is this exactly in the normal testing team? Like in the project where you define Apqcs and those items. Can you just give us some examples how you utilize them?
So in D365, the best methodology that I would recommend and that I have worked with is the Apqc methodology, and that's the American Productivity and Quality Center. And this is like the best, or this is the authority in benchmarking best practices, processes, performances, and knowledge management. And it has a 5-layered model. Yeah. So what you have is you have the first layer, which is the Apqc. So your project itself is your Apqc, and then under your Apqc, you then have your feature, which is your process group. So here is your test suites are your features. Yeah. So this is your process group. So and then what you then have from under your process group, you have your requirements. So if I go in here, if I click on. So if I click here, bear with me. Yeah. So these are your process groups. So under your Apqc, sorry, under your feature, you have your process groups. And then under here, you have your requirements. So you've got a requirement of accounts receivable will be to create free text invoices, to create your sales orders. And then you have your user story. And your user story is a typical, okay, as a sales clerk, I want to be able to raise a sales orders. And then from your user stories, you then have your test cases, and your test case would then be typical, okay, create a sales order. So this is the structure from the Apqc to the feature, to the requirement, the user story, and the task. So the create your sales order is actually your task. So your task, which is the lowest level, is I need to create a sales order.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, we would like to share with you some experience with the projects we went through with different organizations. One of the first one on the list is security project. This was a little bit different. This is not dedicated for testing. This was purely for security optimization. We went through 4 weeks of process identification. So from blank page, there was nothing. It was nothing in the environment. We went like documentations. We went to subject matter experts, process owners, to identify what they're responsible for. Then we actually created a process book, which was showing the responsibilities downgraded to every position in the organization. And we took over 4 weeks to record and convert business processes to actual roles. To actual test cases to extract the security, and then we took 6 weeks to build the security roles with testing. So that's very specific, because we were able to optimize licenses, we were able to optimize the access, and we recorded over 650 processes, 50 roles, and we left the organization with SOD ready. So the finance team were able to start building the SOD matrix on the top of that. This is very beneficial, and actually we are trying to approach another projects with this. The case study was very well described. Another example is the finance industry. Test automation, one of the key finance client in our portfolio. There we had the same idea, no business processes outline it, but revision with subject matter experts. So we went through the organization to identify what they've got, what they do. Within 2 months, then we built the test plans, and then continuously they've got over 400 test cases on 2 test environments, one which is local, second one which is core. So we've got this two different set of test cases. The one test case is so-called core of the system, which is available on all entities, and there are localization tests. So this is nice approach as well, where they distinguish those 2 elements, and those 2 are executed on 2 different test environments to see if everything is working well. Following this, we've got production test company, and this was actually something interesting because there were identified business processes from prior systems, from something which was identified within the implementation process. So we actually started with the test automation. There was no recognition at the beginning. Then we went to the test plan building and the reporting with Power BI. There is plenty of things regarding the reporting in DevOps where it can build some dashboards and so on. And this can help you out on a daily basis. And we've done over 400 test cases, and 300 are planned for over 100 entities. The entities are generating additional load, so this actual scope for the test is huge. And the last one, the retail company, is something very interesting because we've got one of the biggest retail company in the world, and they've got actually one person which is able to maintain and run 300 test cases on retail, on DFO and CPOS. Within 6 months, the person was able to record those test cases with external data injection from SQL. So at the beginning of the test case, there are preloading data, and then actually those test cases are executed on a weekly basis, always on the upgrades from Microsoft. And also this includes a bit of the testing of the hardware. So we do quite a bit of case studies. We can actually elaborate on bit on another company which was mentioned by Anthony. It was a huge pleasure to collaborate with Anthony in Czechoslovakia in Hungary on that project. I think, Anthony, you've got quite a bit of nice stories. Can you share something with us?
Oh yes, thanks for that, Bartosz. We were involved in, well, I was involved in one of the largest implementations in Europe as at that time, and we were already running behind schedule. We were like 2 to 3 months behind schedule. We had over 800 test cases that we needed to manually execute. What we then did was we engaged executive automats. We adopted the tool based on my suggestion, and what that enabled us to do is it enabled us to automate 67 to 68% of our test cases. And what that in turn enabled us to do, it enabled us to save, not just save money, it enabled us to save time, and we were able to run these test cases for our smoke tests, for our functional tests, and for our regression tests. And that also enhanced the quality of the implementation. But the most important thing it did for us is it enabled us claw back the time that we had lost in development, the time that we had lost in developing the integration, so that we eventually delivered that project on time. The go live date that we had initially scheduled to go live, that was already falling behind. The use of executive automats enabled us to meet our go live dates, without and within the amended budgets as well. So that was my first exposure to executive automats, and it was a fantastic exposure. And every project or every implementation that I've worked on since then, I have highly recommended it over the RSAT tool because of the ease of use and how effective it is and how easy it is to use.
Okay, we can definitely outline some criteria. Thank you, Anthony, for sharing this experience. I think there are some criteria why to pick this approach to actually search for something else. We'll never criticize Microsoft. We'll always trying to find the best solution for a current problem. And definitely, when it comes to bigger organization or bigger project, you need to consider few elements when it comes to test automation. You need to have easy to use tool, which will be for everybody. Anthony, you've mentioned the high skill set regarding the people who needs to operate with RSAT. I think this is the case where you need to actually allocate developers and plenty of technical staff to handle that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Then we've got actually the third-party integration and the coverage rate. I think you've outlined it some ranges. Can you tell a bit what is the coverage when you were doing some RSAT project? What was the coverage of the test automation to the manual test cases?
The coverage with the RSAT tool was about 45%, and one of the reasons why was because of the complexity of how you use the RSAT tool as well. So it reduced the coverage because of the complexity
of the test cases. Yeah, that's true, and this is the major problem where we were fighting with it on huge projects where multiple entities were introduced, and we need to do we needed to reuse one test case because reusability, flexibility, and maintenance overall is one of the most important aspects, because the test automation works only when you are able to run tens or even hundreds times one specific test case. If you're gonna record a test case, easy, but you will need to over and over maintain it, place additional steps, heal it. This will not work. This will be not automation. This will be just keep maintain and actually maintenance of your current scripts. This is not the way how the automation should work. So this plus scalability, which means that you are able to run test cases and clone them and actually adjust them a bit and run them in parallel. This is essential because if you've got 10 entities and the test cases are similar, but they operate on different data, you need to have solutions and functions to simplify the process. Why it is important to get it right? I think, Anthony, you're the best person to elaborate on that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is the bit where I really come into my element, and this is based on the experience I have. So an implementation project is not necessarily an IT project. It's a business project. So the business have woken up one morning and said, look, for us to run our organization effectively, we need to have an up to scratch or an up-to-date ERP. So the choice is made, yeah, let's go with D365. So here and then, that is where we need to start getting things right from the onset, once the decision has been made. So it's important to get it right, as every project has a scope and a goal, which is to deliver a working piece of software. As simple as that, yeah. But there are many areas that can cause an implementation to go wrong. Many areas. But to avoid these areas, the following, I'm going to list a few things, and these things are very important, yeah. First and foremost, like I said earlier, an ERP implementation is a business project. So the first and foremost thing that we need to nail is to understand the business goals and requirements. So we need to capture these from the onset. We need to be able to define, okay, what are as-is processes and what are to-be processes going to be. That needs to be nailed down from the onset. We need to, the second thing is we need to involve the business in the development process. So the business, and I'm not saying you get business users to write the code, but the business users need to know what is being developed to make sure that what is being developed is what has been asked for. Yeah. The third thing is we need to confirm and lock down the design early. Yeah, the earlier you lock down the design, the earlier it is that you can start testing. You don't want to be changing your design when you're in UAT or 2 days to go live. So you want to lock down your design early. The fourth thing is you need to be able to run in parallel your design, your build, and test for integrations. a lot of the projects that I've worked on, what has held the project up is the integrations. So these need to be worked on from as soon as possible, so that when you move away from system testing and you go into system integration testing, your integrations and your interfaces are already there. The fifth item is you need to get a handle on your configuration and your test data. By configuration, I mean you need to know what fields you're going to have, where your menu options are going to be, and what other elements of configuration that you're going to have. And in addition to this, you need to control your test data. You need to know what data you're going to be migrated in. Is it just historical data? Is it just transactional data? Is it just master data? You need to have a tight strategy around all these things. Then, as I spoke to you about Azure Devops as well, you need to spend time in configuring the management, the test management tool. The one I recommend is Azure Devops, because it just seamlessly flows with D365. And what I showed you earlier was just like the tip of the iceberg of how you set it up, because the test management tool is also a development tool. You need to be able to configure your tasks. The developers need to put their artifacts in there as well. And then the last but not the least is you need to invest in automation. Investing in automation saves time, saves money, and it helps you run your test smoothly and effectively. So you, at the end of the day, you deliver the best piece of software that you can. You're assured that you have run a lot more tests than you would have been able to run in a shorter period of time if you had done it manually. So I would say invest in automation. Test automation helps speed up your implementation. And that is what those are my recommendations.
Thank you so much. I mean, the whole experience we went through, the AX 2009, 2012, and FNO or FSCM right now builds like the perspective that we need to test, because there are plenty of new elements coming from Microsoft, especially the one version, which significantly increases the need for testing, because we never know with plenty of extensions what to expect with the current production environment. Time is money, so we can afford losing the production for a while. Regarding the best practice and methodologies, Anthony mentioned this APC. Always have a problem with this shortcut.
Apqc.
Apqc. All right.
Yeah.
That's a very nice one. I don't have plenty of experience with that one. I'm more a fan of the process owner card, and trying to do. Maybe I'm gonna elaborate a little bit. Everybody will have some idea about this as well. Previously, we were mentioning this against the security aspect, but starting from the element where you know what are responsibility of the particular person, you were able to build coverage step by step. And the process owner card, if somebody will be interested, we can share the example after the session, gives you also the possibility to do step by step inserting the test automation based on the risk, because every process like sales has the variations. The variation can be sales international or sales domestic or sales affiliated entity. So we've got one test case actually, but 3 variations, which means that you are able to actually record sales and leave the variations behind you for a while. And then in second iteration, you're going to focus to increase the coverage. You can actually increase the number of test cases by recording the variation. But firstly, when you run the first iteration, you run the most important elements to map as much as possible. Like you are first building the blocks from the biggest Lego blocks as you've got, and then you are focusing on smaller elements. This gives you quick, effective application testing. I think this is the best moment. I think, Anthony, if you want, you can also tell our audience a little bit about the Apqc, because probably not everybody heard about that, but this is very interesting.
Okay. Apqc, as I said earlier, is the American Productivity and Quality Center, and it's the world's foremost authority in benchmarking, best practicing, process and performance improvement, and knowledge management. So in essence, what it does is it saves all your requirements, all your processes. It enables you to put it in one place, and then at the end of it enables you to associate your test cases into your processes as well. So the Apqc process classification framework is cross-industry. So in a D365 implementation in a manufacturing environment, you can still use the same Apqc framework in a retail environment, or in a wholesaler, or in a merchandiser. So you can use it cross industry. And once again, this is a taxonomy, and by taxonomy I mean like a process level of process of business processes that allows organizations to track and compare their performance internally and externally with organizations from any industry. It kind of also forms the basis for a variety of projects related to business processes. And as I was trying to explain earlier, you have the top level, which is the epic, and that's the category. And this represents the highest level of the process in the enterprise. Yeah. Then you have level 2, which is the process group. And here, and at this level, it indicates the next level of process and represents a group of processes. You have a level 3, which is a process of the next level of the composition of a process group. And this kind of includes elements needed to accomplish the processes, as well as elements related to variants and reworks. So here you have your sales order, and then you on this level you can have your variants of sales orders. Okay, sales orders for stock managed items, sales orders for serialized items, sales orders for batched items. So you can have your different levels here. So when you then come to level 4, this indicates the key events performed when executing a process. So this is your standards. Okay, for me, this is your user story. For me to be able to raise the sales, to have a sales order of this particular type, I need to do it in this certain way. And the lowest level, which is the task level, represents the lowest level of the hierarchy, and this includes all the activities that are involved. So here you have your variations of test cases, and here the tasks are more down to more detail. Some people adopt 4 levels, but most people adopt the 5 level of this practice. So this is a practice I recommend, or this is a methodology I recommend for all D365 implementations.
Thank you so much. That is very interesting, because definitely there is a problem with identification. What is the process for testing? What is the actual test case? What should I consider as a test case? I think your recommendation with Apqc list will just clarify to people what to consider as a test case, to not have success stories, or we can say even failure stories. I remember that we've got one common story regarding one of the clients who was making a huge mess on their DevOps. That's correct?
Oh yes, yep. And they, this particular client had about 10,000 test cases because they didn't adopt the Apqc model. They probably didn't get their requirements right, so they had over 10,000 test cases, which would have been highly impossible to run. When I onboarded the project, when I was hired to help them out with their project, we were able to, based on the methodology, we were able to break their test cases down, and we were also able to use the Executive Automats tool to automate their process, their test cases as well. So from 10,000, we were able to break their test cases down to just under 1,000. So Executive Automats has really helped in this such project.
Thank you so much. Indeed, that was a very interesting one. We got also other ones we described before, but also there was one of client in Sweden which came to us saying that, guys, we have a performance issue on the system side, and we actually are taking an issue with the Microsoft, with they created a ticket, and elaborating that they can't actually make a proof that they can't reproduce this problem on the system side. And Microsoft said, all right, let's find it out how to help you out. And they've placed a quick automation test executed in parallel to build a stress test over 30 sessions in parallel. So nothing huge. Like you could employ right now 30 people and tell them, could you please run this process? And they actually reproduced that issue, came to Microsoft, and Microsoft, yes, that's true, that's a problematic element. And believe it or not, but most Microsoft actually converted that to modification, which was deployed with the latest update 37 or 36, as far as I remember. So everybody who had that issue, or it might be not actually know so widely, but it was fixed and delivered within the update. So the company helped a lot with the stability of the tool. There are some other nice success stories regarding the guy from retail, like one-man army. So the test automation can lead you to different places, and it might be very beneficial. You need to just place the right tool. You need to have the right stuff, and you can have plenty of added value from it. As we see right now, there are plenty of questions regarding executive automates. I don't know if this is a plan, but I can take some time and show you some quick stuff, because this will not affect our presentation, and give you some overall look on the application, because it is very straightforward. So let me just share the screen with you. Apologies for taking over.
Yeah, no problem, Bart. Go ahead. Yeah, there's actually a few questions, so it might be good just to show a quick example.
All right, so please just confirm, Jake or Anthony or Matt, if you can see the screen. I'll elaborate a bit on the examples. Thank you so much, guys. So the approach we had on the beginning was to create one platform for every environment. So when you log in inside with your own credentials, you're going to see the all scripts view, which is the representation of all test cases that you've placed for your environment. And for your all environments. So if you've got test, UAT, dev, pre-prod, release, you can set up them all in the settings. And then when you record a test case, you simply say on which environment. So it is very easy. There is no import and export of the test cases. You identify the test case you would like to record. You simply select the project. Project is for aggregation. So as Anthony was mentioning previously, the aggregation on the test plans, you can actually treat this aggregation level as a test plan, as a then test suite, and the folders where you place your processes. So if I would like to record new purchase, PO creation, I can set the name, I can take the environment and the user from the configuration of the project and simply start recording. It will be reconnecting me to update 32 of our environment. This is our internal testing environment, where I'm going to record sample example, one sample example of the process. So let's see on the right side recorder. It identifies all actions, and I can jump into accounts payable, all purchases, and continue. Everything that you're going to do will be recognized and identified on the right side. So I can simply select vendor, select item ID, warehouse, site, and then I'm going to just confirm this. If you're going to make some mistakes, you can always delete an action to make sure that your process is smooth and clean. So it will leave with you for plenty of upgrades. And even though if you're going to click some new icon, or if you're going to introduce new elements, new fields into the process, it is very easy to heal it, to actually add additional step to the process. So the maintenance, the cost of the maintenance is very low in here, to always have your processes up to date. When you've done your test case, you can click finish. So the system will save your test case. But if you say, oops, I forgot about something, I can either record once again to continue from this point, or focus on the last element in here and record additional steps. So don't leave your test case behind you. You can always reuse them. I'm going to continue with confirmation in a second, but prior to that, I would like to check if on the header view, our status was changed as we expect. So I can actually make a verification on the approval status to get and verify this later on. As you know, the happy path testing to see the only possibility to execute a test case is a little bit misleading. You should definitely consider empowering your test cases with multiple actions like verification of the results or negative testing to make sure that you've got all details in place, every value verified. The application has also possibility to download files within the business process. So if you are building a purchase order, you can actually later on download this within the business process and gain some analysis based on that. So imagine you've got 6 entities, 6 different templates of the invoice. You run one process, and then you execute this against all entities to see if it works. When you've got everything in place, you can actually modify the data, the flexibility aspect. So I put the order for account number 6. I can easily modify it by changing the constant value to 08, 07, everything which exists in the system. I can use Excel files. I can use number sequences. I can actually write a code in here. And by code, I mean I can write my expression, which will do some uppercases, lower cases. If I would like to unify some data for comparison, that's definitely possible to make sure that the verification will be very extensive. If you're going to make some mistakes in the process, you can always drag and drop some elements. So it is like a Lego. You can build smaller blocks from which you're going to build big picture of the process. I'm going to execute this in the background of documentation modes. So we're going to get documentation from the process. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you that when you've got multiple processes, you can then connect them as small pieces and exchange data in between them. So this might be very long end-to-end process, jumping in from DFO to even a vendor portal to some platform which is used as a data provider, and then verify much more elements. You can use CPOS, you can use warehouse devices. Quite a bit of those can be empowered. If you're going to face some issues, you will be able to send work item to DevOps. So the test cases work items will help you out. Building. I'm still online. I saw. Oops.
Yep. No worries.
Connectivity issues. Sorry for that. So this can be very helpful when it comes to the execution of the test cases. I can jump in here. We are discussing also the byproducts of the test cases. When you run your test case in background, I'll run once again. When you run your processes in the background, and then you would like to have the documentation visible, you can actually take a look on the old projects, focus on Dynamics F&O Update 32, and you can take a look what kind of documentations you've already created. So I can take SO, and I can download documentation for our business users. So this, you can actually introduce in here plenty of business users, which can log in here, not in the purpose of testing, but in the purpose of understanding the business process, understanding and learning how to build SO in the system, how to generate what kind of parameters are important to be used. Every element which is imported can be highlighted, can have a hint which will describe much more regarding complexity, regarding what is necessary or what to pick in a specific situation. It can have requirements, results, expected results, and it can have also your corporate look. There are plenty of things to discuss and show you. I will not maybe elaborate too much because there is something waiting for you in just a moment. The nice last thing I would like to mention is scheduler. So when you're going to build your old test cases and place them underneath projects, you are then able to run schedule of tests. So you can tell, I would like to run all test cases from specific module. So I can tell the system I would like to run our PO creation finished with success. So we know our process went through with success, by the way, the notification just came. I can go to the projects and tell the system, I would like to run test cases for accounts payable and receivable. Perfect example of regression, because we would like to verify if the posting profile changes is not affecting the stability of the system. I'm going to move them up to the testing group, and I'm going to activate the test case. So this group will be effectively executed over 11 of December of September. So I can actually modify the date, so it will be executed tomorrow or Friday. So on Monday morning, we can come up and see the results. So you can plan and build some testing cases, execution, to make sure that you've got everything in place on time. As I mentioned before, there are plenty of stuff to show you. Maybe I'm going to give back the voice to the group. Matt has something specific for you, so the stage is yours, Matt.
Thank you very much, Bart. Hello, everyone. My name is Mateusz, and I'm responsible for our partners and the certification program. I know we are running out of time, so I will try to be as quick as possible. So we developed this certification program to help our partners and our clients learn the tool in a structured and practical way. We have 3 levels, and the certification is tiered, so you will need to be on the fundamental level to take the associate level, and on the associate level to take the expert level. And so next week we are actually doing another fundamental wave, and this registration is only open up until Friday, so I wanted to let you know about that and give you a chance to sign up. You can see a pop-up window above, and you can click that to go to the registration form. We will start the certification with a quick kickoff meeting on Monday. And afterwards, you will receive access to an EA environment together with a list of tasks which you will have to complete in order to learn the tool step by step and get certified. This will be pure practice, no unnecessary theory. All the tasks are designed to imitate how you will actually be using the tool in your future projects. You will have 7 days to complete the tasks at your convenience, of course, and the average time to complete is something around 6 hours. Upon completion, you will receive a printable certificate plus an e-badge that you can add to your LinkedIn profile or share via social media. You will need to have a score of 70% or more to pass. Okay, so here are some of the things that you will learn whilst doing the certification, and yeah, and let me also just say thank you very much for all the insights that you have sent over before the webinar. We tried to mix some of them into the presentation, but we can only cover so much in 60 minutes. So if you still have questions or would like to get some more in-depth look at the tool, please feel free to book meetings with us. I think we will quickly jump to the Q&A right now.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions. The first one is regarding just the next level, so the associate level for this, and that I don't think we have that planned yet, but I'll let you talk about that, Matt.
Yeah. So we will actually be running the associate level during the next wave. That will be in December. Just so you know, and just one thing I wanted also to mention. Tomorrow, every one of you will receive an email from us with the webinar recording, and we will include the link to the certification as well as the link to book a meeting with us. Yeah, tomorrow. Any more questions?
There's a question regarding this. Is it free? It is definitely free. The certification, the first level fundamental, is free. You can join in, sign in, and try yourself in the test automation world.
Yep. All of you who are already a fundamental level, you will receive information once we publish it, I would say, or announce it. Oh, that's the word.
Yeah.
Any questions maybe to the presentation by Bart and Anthony?
no questions from me.
Okay, I guess we'll be wrapping up then.
Yeah, we need to definitely try to do once a session from on site from the customer when we do test automation test run with huge emotions when it is close to the end. We are Friday, it is 5 p.m. We are running the last tests to actually celebrate the go live, but yeah.
I think everyone here knows exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best elements of testing and then delivering the test plans for the customers was the hotels afterwards when you end up and you had the chance to just come on, everybody knows that. It was pure pleasure to discuss and exchange knowledge regarding the dynamics overall, because there are so many approaches on the test automation and the by effects. Everybody is struggling with different things. And the actual integration which comes afterwards is awesome, because we were able to exchange and build technology together. Actually, this is the result of it when you discuss with test managers as Anthony. As I'm just sort of going back in memory regarding the Ciekawe as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Bart, that was a great presentation. Anthony, it was awesome, and thanks, Jake, for everything. Thank you for attending. We will send you an email tomorrow, like I said, with all the information and recording from today's session.
Yeah, exactly. We'll follow up with everyone that's been here and send you the recording over. Also, as we mentioned, we can have a session, a demo, or just a chat about testing in general. Anytime you like, you can reach out to us.
David's a question regarding the backend systems as well. David, if you've got like a possibility to write a JavaScript code which will invoke that backend system, if this is like accessible, this might be a possibility. Also, the Power Apps and Logic Apps gives some open doors for this type of automation. Look forward to see an example of your backend system which can be triggered. The example we've discussed previously with the retail company, they were actually triggering the backend system within that. So I think if you can come back to us afterwards, we can try to help you out with kind of the backend system which is integrated in and out within test case.
Great, thanks for that, Bart. And the more questions, the better, guys. That's really how we develop this tool, is through feedback from our customers, as well as we use this during our projects as well. So all of your feedback is very helpful for us. Don't hesitate to reach out to us with some questions or comments, anything like that. All right, I think that's about it, guys. We can go ahead and wrap up here. Really appreciate all the input, Bart, as usual. Anthony, it was great to have you with us. Really, really good job. I really enjoyed picking your brain throughout this whole process. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you guys too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thanks, everyone.